Blended Kingdom Teens is all about the real-life struggles of living with divorced parents. We give you honest conversation and practical tools for living out your identity and purpose as we chase after God together. Hey everybody, I'm glad to have you on the podcast today. Today we're going to be talking about the stress between transitioning between two different houses.
Yo.
We're here with Scott today again.
Man, it's good to be here. And, man, this is going to be a wild podcast because awesome. I think that, and we're definitely going to talk about the teen perspective of this, but parents have stress transitioning kids between houses. But a lot of times the way you're feeling is completely overlooked. So
for sure.
Just talk about your experience. Like, what's that been like for you? Thinking back, like, when you were 8, 9, 10 years old, those transitions.
Dude. Being at that young, kind of that 8, 9, 10 range, it was definitely weird for me because it's like, personally, I would have some trouble sleeping because it's like I don't have the same bed.
Yeah.
And there's just all sorts of different things that can be different in everybody's household, right? So the mom, may have different rules or, standards or expectations than the other house. And I'd say that's one of the hardest things. It's just,
well, and there's I would assume there's like a level of excitement because you're going and you're seeing your other parent and you're like, oh, I'm excited to see them, but then you kind of like relax into it after 30 minutes there. You're like, okay, now I'm here and
I want to go back.
I can't sleep, or I'm having, this is uncomfortable, or oh, I miss my friends over here, right. And oh, I'm glad I get to see my friends over here. There's so many of those emotions that happen.
I feel like also, for me personally, it gets to a point where it's like that is the exciting part of your week is getting to, transition between houses because it's like it's almost like you're getting new things, but you're not, if that makes sense. Like new parents, new rules, get to see all my friends over there, and then you kind of die down and you're like, I want to go back. So then you go back and you're like, I want to go back again.
So it's like a constant influx of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Or dopamine,
right?
That excitement part of the body. So you're getting that every single time you transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it fades quickly.
And then it's like.
Then you're waiting for the next one.
Right.
Okay. What about actually, and everybody has different visitation schedules. We've had situations where it's week on, week off, or, long weekends, and so I guess from my perspective, the question I have is, and you've done both. You've done those extended weekends.
Every other weekend.
Yeah, that Friday through Monday, and you've done week on, week off.
Right.
What was the difference for you?
I'd say, every other weekend, it wasn't as much as like that adrenaline, going house to house because you don't really get to see that every other weekend household much.
Yeah.
It feels like what you are, but it feels like you're predominantly more with the house that you stay with, right?
Yeah.
And I liked the week on, week off thing a lot more because it was more of a balance between, who I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing over there, or, vice versa. So I think, either way can be tough, but yeah.
Well, and the week on, week off, you're also, it doesn't disrupt the school schedule as
right.
much, too.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, I've still got school. That's my constant here.
I don't have to spend that weekend that I would get in every other weekend doing homework or other things that involve, outside of school.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also the week on, week off, if I remember right, you didn't have to take as much stuff. It was like you didn't have to pack a bag.
Yeah, you could really settle in.
Yeah, because you had all your stuff there and you had all your stuff here. It's like you don't have to settle. You don't have to you don't have to live out of a backpack is what
right.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
But you've done that before.
Yes.
So let's talk about that in terms of what is that like to, you're like, all right, now I got to pack.
It was tough. I remember week on, week off, or every other weekend, I'd walk into my room and there'd be nothing in there. And I'm like, taking clothes over there and, just so I could wear stuff because I was never there at my dad's house. And, I'd say that makes it a lot harder because, you're kind of trying to settle in for the weekend. It's almost like you're getting a hotel for the weekend, if that makes sense. It's just, it makes it a lot more uncomfortable. And it's tough. It's definitely tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure anybody who's listening, if you're, one of those people who's been in the hotel world and like stayed in hotels, it's comfortable, but it's not really home. Comfortable. Yeah, it's not your home bed. And that's tough because I think parents, they want you to feel comfortable.
Right.
But, they don't get to experience what you're experiencing. So they try really hard to make you feel comfortable and also, and you made a comment like, oh, well, those every other weekends, you feel like you don't see the other parent because you're not experiencing them like during your week.
Right.
So it feels like a shorter stint.
Weekend life is a lot different than, the week.
Yeah. Well, and that's hard for parents too.
Right.
I know that parents don't like the concept of like, man, I feel like I'm always riding his tail because it's school and homework and there was definitely a time when you and homework did not agree.
It still doesn't.
You do good now. Like
that's because I have to force myself.
Yeah, well you'll be doing that the rest of your life. Yeah. There's nothing different about being an adult. You're like, I gotta go to work. But I remember like those homework times. It's like, man, every week it's like we're fighting a battle of homework, and then if you're going to the other parent's house on the weekend, it's like, man, they don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
That's
tough.
hard
on parents as well. What if you could talk to parents or teens? Let's do both of those. What advice would you give them, Michael? And like, okay, how do you make this easier on your kids if they're transitioning? So talk to parents first and be like, hey, parents, this is what you should do. And then talk to teens about how they can handle that.
I'd say for me, like I felt like a lot of the times, going over there every other weekend, it was like they were kind of like softer on me, if that makes sense, And I always wish that it was the same as, the house that I'm staying at predominantly, like just treat them the same you would as if they were living with you the entire time.
Yeah.
Don't make it super special, I guess, if that makes sense. Because kind of that uncomfortable factor, it makes you feel like, it's just kind of uncomfortable. But, teens-wise, I'd just say, both parents love you equally and, they love you a lot. And, even doing the little things that might help you, like setting up a room at your every other weekend house so when you get there, you feel like you're home, or taking stuff from your week house to your other weekend house that, might make you feel like you're more at home. It's just the small things like that I felt like helped me a lot. And I think that could help a lot of other people that deal with the same thing.
No, I think you're spot on. And again, more parents need to consider the feelings of their kiddos as they transition, because it's a tough thing.
It is.
It's not for the faint of heart. And like I said when we started this, parents struggle in that area too.
Right.
That's a highly stressful situation, sometimes even combative in those relationships, and it's tough.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for listening with us today. It's awesome having y'all here. We'll see you on the next one.
Absolutely.